Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. Our friend Craig Anderton, Executive Vice President from Gibson, is joining us today, and we're going to talk about neat microphones. Craig, great to have you here as always, man. It's always a pleasure to have you join us.
Mitch.
And these mics are really interesting. They were introduced 2 NAMMs ago, right? And I remember that I walked into the Gibson booth and I was like, what is this? Why does Gibson have microphones? Tell us the story of these.
Yeah, these are actually the founders of Blue Microphones started a new company, and that's what Neat is. So basically, this is a lot of the same kind of innovative thinking that went into Blue Microphones is now sort of getting another lease on life with a new company.
Right.
And what's interesting about it is a lot of this is sort of designed from the ground up, new technology, new manufacturing processes, ways to keep the quality up and the cost down, you know, all the things that they learned at Blue, basically, and all the things that have happened in technology since then, being incorporated into, you know, innovative mics.
Right.
The object was to come up with something that was really kind of universally applicable to people, still at a reasonable price. And the one thing they did not want to do is come up with another gray cylinder made by the lowest bidder in China. You know, they wanted to do something different.
Yeah, they definitely didn't do that. These are really unique looking microphones.
Yeah, it's
they're fun.
You know, it's interesting because the reactions to them are somewhat polarizing. And you see artists coming in, and if they're under the age of 30 or so, they look at them and go, man, those are really cool. I love those mics. And some of the oldest school engineers come in and they're like, I don't know, it kind of looks weird, you know.
Right.
But, you know, the proof is always in the listening. You know, I mean, that's what they're there for.
Right.
So the looks are not, to me, the looks don't really matter. My main criteria is can make my voice sound better.
Right, right.
So one of the things that they did with this, which I thought was a very interesting philosophy, is that the mics are designed to complement each other.
Okay.
So that with these two mics, you pretty much have most recording situations under control.
So when you say these two, you're talking about the two we have here in the center here, which is the King Bee and the Worker Bee.
Right. The other two, the Bumblebee and the Beecaster, those are USB mics, and they're designed to be really high quality USB mics for podcasting, remote work, things like that.
What's the difference between the two of them?
The Bumblebee and the
Beecaster.
The Beecaster has more options in terms of pickup. It's like 4 different kinds of pickup. So if you're doing cardioid, if you're doing like a stereo situation, if you need to pick up an entire room.
Okay.
I've been making a lot of friends by letting them use these for conference calls.
Okay.
Because they really can pick up an entire room very well. The Bumblebee is more like if you're a solo podcaster, but it's also really good for like singer-songwriters that want to record their acoustic guitar or something like that. There's a voice mode, a music mode, and a flat mode.
Okay.
So, you know, they have slightly different tweaked frequency responses.
Right. Mic gain, headphone volume, so you plug your headphones right in here so you don't have any latency.
Exactly.
When you're tracking. Very easy to adjust because they move up and down. They also turn on the bass. They're really cool microphones.
Yeah, and they have a snap-on pop filter too, which is one of those why didn't anybody think of that before type of deals. You know?
It pops right on and pops.
So yeah, I've actually been using those, you know, for Skype and things like that. I mean, it's kind of like overachieving, but it's so much better than using a laptop mic.
Right.
You know, and frankly, most USB mics. I mean, these are like really high quality mics. So, I mean, I like them for that. There's actually a couple of recording studios who are using the Beecaster because of the different polar pickup patterns. So it's you know, I would not have thought of that. But they were like, well, you know, can we check these out? Well, okay, you know, and they're like, hey, you know, these are actually like really useful. So anyway,
cool.
But these two are the ones that are really designed for studio work.
Okay, and these are regular XLR connectors on these. They're condenser mics. So they use phantom
condenser, phantom power, 34 millimeter large diaphragm in the King Bee, 24 millimeter medium diaphragm in the Worker Bee. And the King Bee is, as I said, they're complementary. For example, the King Bee is really designed more for vocals and that kind of acoustic source. So there's a little bit of a high frequency lift starting around 4K, goes to about 10. And it's not a lot, but it's just enough to give voices a little more presence. And it drops off somewhat at 50 hertz. So you don't get quite the same kind of boominess. I mean, it's not a whole lot, so you can EQ it back in if you want to have that FM DJ voice or whatever.
Right.
But it's excellent for vocals. I mean, when I switched over to that, it made my voice sound better. So I'm not going to argue with it.
Right.
You know?
Every day is something different. I fight back, but all I want is you.
Now, the other thing is that, like different signal to noise ratios, this has a custom wound output transformer. So you're getting a lot of the step-up voltage that way instead of through the electronics. So this has a signal to noise ratio of like 87.5 dB, something like that. So that's really pretty good.
Sure.
This is 79 dB because it doesn't have the transformer. They both have Class A active electronics, though. And this can handle much higher SPLs. So if you were miking a guitar amp, for example, you'd use this. If you were miking a really loud acoustic guitar, it's a toss-up. You may want one, you may want the other one. The frequency response of this is pretty neutral. It has a very slight dip around 2K to get rid of honk, and a very slight dip around 500 hertz to get rid of mud. You know, for nylon string guitar, I'd use the King Bee for sure.
Okay.
But for, like I said, for loud steel string, some people swear by the King Bee. Some people swear by the Worker Bee for acoustic guitar, whatever, you know, whatever works. The dynamic range is really good. It's around, I think, around 134 dB.
Wow.
And
very impressive.
Yeah, the SPLs that it can handle is 140 for the King Bee, 145 for the Worker. So that's a difference right there.
Right.
In terms of, in addition to the snap-on pop filter, it also does come with the shock mount.
Right.
So that's a pretty nice heavy-duty shock mount that's not an extra expense.
Right. And both microphones have that same style of shock mount.
Yep.
Mount right in there. That's awesome.
So, you know, it's really convenient that way. The
pop those off.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's one of those why didn't everybody think of that before type of things. But the other thing is that the diaphragms are very carefully tuned. So there's a really nice level of consistency with the mics. And a couple of reviewers said, well, can you send me a match set? And I said, well, we don't do match sets, but try them out. And they're like, okay.
Right.
It's a match set. No, it's not a match set. It just seems that way.
Right. They're so consistent that any two are basically matched.
Yeah, the manufacturing process is very consistent. And narration, for example, with the King Bee really comes across well. Singers, obviously. But also other acoustic sources, like if I was doing xylophones or something like that, I'd probably use the Worker Bee. But or drums, I'd use the Worker Bee on the snare. I'd use the King Bee for the room mics. Probably the overheads, depends upon whether the person's a basher or not.
Right.
So this has been the main criterion is the way that they complement each other. That's a really important thing. So someone can go in and get both of them and be pretty much covered for anything. And you know, I also like the fact that they're not supposed to be handheld mics. You know, but I've been known to take the King Bee out of its holder from time to time and hold it. It feels substantial, you know, and it doesn't have the handling noise type of thing. The other thing that's interesting about these is they were designed specifically to work on phantom power as low as 35 volts. So if you're doing work with a USB interface and a laptop and maybe it doesn't really give you the full 48 volts, even though that's what it says on the panel. Sometimes you measure these things, they're not quite the same. It'll still function with it very efficiently.
Nice.
So, you know, it is something new in microphones. It is something a little bit different, and the best thing I can suggest is to try them out.
Right.
Because that's what convinced me to switch over to the King Bee. Like I said, maybe it's not going to flatter everybody's voice, but I need every advantage I can get.
Right.
You know, and then the Worker Bee I've been using a lot on guitar amps. So it's very nice complementary.
Absolutely. Well, the mics look great. They feel great. They're nice and solid. The shock mounts are sturdy, and obviously they suspend the microphone well in there. Really cool microphones. I recommend you give these a try because I think you're really going to be pleased with the sound you get out of them. Craig, thanks so much for stopping by and telling us about these microphones, giving us a little rundown on the company and what we can expect here. They look so cool that I think having that background information that tells you that these are real microphones is an important thing to get across.
Well, you mentioned the look, and quite a few people, we have like a little studio setup at Gibson where people come in and they record with the mics, and there's something about those mics that kind of puts them in a good mood. Yeah. They're just looking and go, oh, these are cool. And then they start singing. And they're just, it's funny how it affects people that way.
So you can't use these for sad songs, is that what you're saying?
No, you can't use them for sad songs. You have to put some kind of black cloth over them,
So great to see you, my friend.
Hey, good to see you.
Thanks for coming by.
Right,
come back soon.
I will.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute.